If you're influencing good stuff, awesome, be an influencer. If you're influencing destruction, that's not a good way to use influence. So much of what people call content is simply pollution, in my opinion. It's just a bunch of bullshit. The thing with context is more important than content. Suffering is the greatest teacher in the world. Be very careful taking advice from people that have not done it.
All right, welcome to the Superhuman Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Jerry Mipson, and I'm here with one of my favorite superhuman entrepreneurs, Joe Polish. So thanks for being here, Joe.
Yeah, man. Great to be here.
And let's just dive right in, because we just, right before we started, you read a text that you got from one of your friends that came through, and which is right on the same topic I want to talk about. And they talked about how, they were thanking you for your superhuman skill of seeing people for who they really are and be able to help them through challenges.
Yeah.
And lots of entrepreneurs. And so I want to talk that through that entrepreneur challenge roller coaster pathway. All of us crazy entrepreneurs that sign up for that, we jump onto that road.
Right.
And so kind of what's your, so if someone is in a deep challenge, we're going to start diving deep. What do you do? What do you do in that situation?
Well, so if you know what to do and you feel that you have the ability and at a gut feeling, you're like, yeah, I think I got this handled. You handle it. You do what you need to do. Other times you have to resource yourself by either the environment, other people that you may know. I mean, I'm constantly put in situations where I don't know what the hell to do, but I also don't run away from challenges. One of my favorite quotes that I saw on the wall at one of the gyms I work out at said, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So every day I'm looking for things to challenge me, and I don't shy away from difficult stuff. However, there are things that are beyond anyone's capabilities, from, how much weight can you lift to how much, sleep deprivation can one person handle to how much lack of food or nutrition versus, you can eat too much, you can eat too little. So human interactions are the same. We're all, to be superhuman, to go to the theme of your show. Everyone has an area where they can be Superman or Superwoman. But there's the kryptonite. And oftentimes we're helping other people offload their kryptonite. Other times people are coming to us saying, I'm like in this mess. What the hell do I do? That's what our friends are. That's what we do. Anyone that's a parent, anyone that is a boss that has to lead people. So we're all in situations. So the first thing you got to do, I mean, the analogy it's been used so many millions of times, but being on an airplane, you have to, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on others. So as long as you're in that sort of position, then you come from a state of what's in it for them. What do they need? How do you help? Since my world, and I say us, we spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs, right? With Unstoppable 365, the vast majority of people that are in that program are driven entrepreneurs with too much on their plate, trying to figure out how to juggle it all. Yep. Putting themselves in situations where every day they have to make it up and make it real. Right. Literally, it's not set up for them, and that's the majority. So if you think of let's see, superhuman, entrepreneur. So I'm going to break these words down. And Unstoppable 365. If you just take those two things, so you got your show, superhuman entrepreneur. Well, what is an entrepreneur? Well, the first recorded use of the word entrepreneur was in 1804. By a French guy named Jean-Baptiste Say. And he said that an entrepreneur is an individual that takes resources from a lower yield to a higher yield, from a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. So whenever you're making something better, that is entrepreneurship. So If you take superhuman, okay, so not just human, but superhuman. So, and then you have unstoppable, which is more like, I talk to Whitney Jones about this all the time, because there are times where you want to have the unstoppable sort of testosterone mindset, and other times where it's like, if you don't slow some shit down here, you're going to break. And you can speak to the nervous system and cortisol and, for sure. Everything about our biology and that sort of stuff. So when I think of, 365, that's how many days you got in a year. So there's going to be certain things that you do in those days that if you do them consistently and in the right ways, you will probably be unstoppable. If you want to be a really effective entrepreneur, if you want to be an awesome human, so there's the mental and there's the physical. And so I spend about half my time helping people that struggle with addictions, because I myself have been in recovery for over 2 decades. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, certainly a work addict, because work addiction is the respectable addiction, right?
Yeah.
You get status, you can make money, people admire you. There's a bazillion books on how to be a more busy entrepreneur and get more shit done. And then it's like, you got to step back from this and be like, well, what am I actually trying to get done? And what does getting things done mean? And so doing things right versus doing the right things are 2 different things. And so I'd rather do the right things than just do things right, because you can rob a bank and get away with it if you do it right. But that's not the right thing to do. You don't rob banks, right? So I guess, to the criminals out there, this show's not called Superhuman Criminal.
Not yet. That's our other secret podcast.
Exactly. That's the one after dark. But the thing, entrepreneur, is I don't view, so I'm a capitalist. So, I think it was Hayek that said, the only problem with capitalism is it was named by its enemies. So capitalism in its purest form is individuals exchanging value, money for value or trade, right? So there's a lot of ways to use corruption and put it under the umbrella of capitalism or crony capitalism or, corporatism and things like that, which I don't view the same as entrepreneurship, because I view using the word entrepreneur as a good thing. If you take a person's, even if you're not making money, if you take someone's ability to think or exercise from one level to here, which you do all the time. I mean, people come to you to get better in these areas. That's entrepreneurship. Whenever someone on our teams, takes anything, technology, finance, business systems, inventories, anything to another higher level. We're sitting in the podcast studio. If there's a way to improve the lighting, if there's a way to improve the voice, the sound, the editing, and you're making it better, that's entrepreneurship. So a lot of people make money by selling bad shit to people. It doesn't make their lives better. It actually makes it worse. I would not put that into the entrepreneurial category. The problem is it gets blurred, and we live in this world where everyone is fetishizing entrepreneurship, and they're telling a lot of young people, go and hustle, hustle, hustle. Be an influencer. Influencing what? If you're influencing good stuff, awesome, be an influencer. If you're influencing destruction, that's not a good way to use influence.
For sure.
That was too long of an answer.
No, that was a great answer. I'm just thinking so many times I watched your videos or seen you at events, and you're usually the one asking the questions and getting the great responses. So I'm like pinching myself. I'm like, oh, but I'm asking a question and I'm getting a good 30-minute response from Joe.
Yeah.
Or however long it is. But yeah, interesting little tidbit on that. I love that definition of entrepreneurship. I didn't realize that was the first definition that's there. Yeah. But actually, my name, Jerem, is from the same root Hebrew word as Jeremiah.
Okay.
Hebrew has no vowels. Take the vowels out. JRM. It means to level up and tell people level up. And so that's in my parents' infinite wisdom somehow assigned me the right name.
Right.
For me, loving to help people level up.
Yeah. And
so that's what I do. That's been my favorite definition of entrepreneurship, is helping people level up.
Yeah. Well, before asking me questions, let's go a little bit deeper with it, because I think what's useful when you have not just a 1 minute or 90-second social media soundbite, but you actually have time to marinate in the concept. So for people leveling up, what would be an example of not leveling up versus an example of leveling up? Because I'm asking this for my own curiosity as much as anyone that's listening to this.
So no, I think you described it, because it could be something that doesn't actually provide service, doesn't actually help them, and you can level up in any number of ways. Like we have a friend, Tommy, who helps people with their garage doors.
Right.
And so if your house does not have a working garage door, Tommy and his team come in, they fix your garage door. That levels up your house, levels up your peace and your security in your home. So it helps your bill for your power to go down. That's a way to level up.
Right. Oh, what's he call it? Tommy's a great entrepreneur. The
smile of your house.
The smile of your house. Yeah. Yeah. When you pull up to your garage, it's the smile of your house. And of course, you just got that's also what entrepreneurs have to do too. They have to name things. They have to create context. Because, I talk to continuously to social media people, usually young people that have not yet built a business, but they know how to edit shit and things like that. And like content, you got to create content. Someone farting on a cliff in making like a joke, it can call that content. And so much of what people call content is simply pollution, in my opinion. It's just a bunch of bullshit. So the thing with context is more important than content. And whenever you frame whatever you're offering. So for the entrepreneurs out there, everybody that is an entrepreneur has to sell something. What a entrepreneur does is they solve problems for a profit. They have to figure out what are the problems, how do we solve them, how do we do this in a profitable way, how do we package it, how do we present it, how do we position it. And so I learned marketing when I was a carpet cleaner. So I was a dead broke carpet cleaner living off credit cards. That's my beginning stories. I got into that business because I didn't have a college degree in anything. I actually was a drug addict when the night of my high school graduation, I was freebasing cocaine, looking over the fence at the football stadium, not stadium, it's
field,
like field. Yeah. Like one of my top stadium. It's Dobson High School. So I went to Dobson High School in Mesa, Arizona. And I was a drug addict. And so I didn't even walk during my high school graduation. So I still, quote unquote, graduated, but I didn't get the celebration and I was a total mess. So I didn't have what anyone would consider advantages from college degrees or any unique skills. And so I got into this carpet cleaning business, and I was in this carpet cleaning business just trying to figure out how to freaking survive. And so I learned marketing in a lot of ways, luck. I had someone give me a newsletter written by who became actually a really close friend of mine, a crazy copywriter by the name of Gary Halbert. And this was in the early 90s. And so I read that and I fell in love with the fact that you can change words in an ad and it would change the response. This was before the internet. This was before social media. This was before AI. But I fell in love with communication. And so I started reading voraciously. I had this insane interest in like, wow, the difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill is the message on the paper. Same paper, same ink, different message, but one could be worth 100 times more than the other one, even though it's everything material-wise is completely the same. It costs the same amount of money to print a $1 bill as it does a $100 bill. Why is this one worth 100 times more? Well, it's the message on the paper. So I started applying that concept to my advertising, and I had to figure out how to successfully sell something nobody wants to buy, because no one wakes up saying, I hope the cat pees in the corner so I can call a carpet cleaner. No one wants to call a carpet cleaner. So I was in this business though, because a friend from high school, kind of at a time where I didn't really have a lot of options, talked that into me. And so what I didn't realize though is how valuable that was. Because when you just have things given to you or things are easy, especially early on, like one of the best, and I say this out of ignorance because I don't have children, although I think I have a lot of clients that are children. So,
for sure. I've been to your events.
Oh yeah, well, I have amazing adults that also that are built multi-billion-dollar businesses that oftentimes just, they need some direction. And I say that jokingly because I've needed a shit ton of direction in my life. So thank God there's teachers and there's people that are out there. But the whole point behind what I'm saying is that for anyone listening, you're in the marketing business. You have to communicate stuff. Everybody that it has something to sell. There's three things you need in order to sell something. You need a product or service, whatever that is. You need a sales pitch or a marketing message. And then you need a delivery system. How do you tell people about it? So social media, books, podcasts, those are delivery systems. Even if you're not selling something, you're still selling your ideas. Right. And so what I tell people about selling and marketing though, because those are words where everyone listening has had a bad experience with an unethical salesperson, an unethical marketer, someone that painted a picture, didn't really deliver on stuff. So there's ethical and there's unethical ways to use any of these sort of skills. And so think of selling as influence and persuasion. Think of marketing as storytelling. And if you become more influential and persuasive in whatever environment, you're going to be more effective. And if you tell a better story, you're going to enroll people. So a lot of people, their superhuman power, they may have the ingredients, but they haven't packaged them in a certain way. So if you have a really beautiful piece of art and it's valuable, but you duct tape it to the wall, that is not going to be viewed in the same way as if you frame it, or if you put good lighting, or you put it in the Louvre in, Paris or something. So that's, what are you framing? What is your superhuman, stupid human trick
Yeah.
that you have, and how do you package it? How do you utilize it? And those are just some things that are going through my mind right now as we talk about all this.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you started describing the process of kind of the next question that I want to ask you is, so, because these are all skills, sales, marketing, influencing, being able to edit and post content on a social media, all those are skills.
Right.
And you even talked about your getting that interest in learning that communication skill.
Yeah.
So for an entrepreneur out there, they might realize they have a deficit in a certain skill category. What's your approach when that happens to you, and what should they do to reach superhuman status and something like that?
Okay, so I have a client, Mike Aguilero, really difficult name. I've known him forever. I can still never pronounce his name properly. I was interviewing him for my marketing podcast, which I started back in 2010, and this was years ago. And I was just talking to him about, because he's a big purchaser of knowledge, as am I. I've spent over $2 million on my marketing education. I've read over 1,000 books. I mean, you've been to my office. I have an 11,500 square foot building that is filled with millions of dollars worth of courses and books. And
in every little corner, every little drawer, there's more courses.
Exactly. What's funny, you haven't seen this. We recently got a co-warehouse space. I didn't even know these existed. There's the co-working spaces, and then there's the co-warehouse spaces where, I had made a comment to my COO. I have a new COO. And I said, I'd like to have something that's kind of like a mini airplane hangar, where it's a big open area and where I can just take all of the stuff out of the rooms and then sort it and then determine, like, what are we going to keep? What are we going to digitize? What are we going to give away? Because I'm a hoarder of not socks or lint. I hoard $1 million marketing and business concepts and ideas. And I have this ridiculous dysfunctional belief that someday I'm going to get to it all, which will not come. And I am a guy that simultaneously loves books and courses and knowledge. And I also love the book Goodbye Things, which is about minimalism, right? So, and there's one thing to organize stuff. There's another to actually get rid of it. And so what I've painfully learned over the years is that whatever we own owns us. And if we're in every item that you have is a roommate that you pay its rent, be it a vase or a plant or a book or whatever. So I've got thousands of little roommates at my office that I basically pay to have them on the bookshelf or in the file cabinet, or, and then there's the digital world, right? Which is not material, but there's all of this stuff. So, typical driven entrepreneur desktop disaster. So I have all of this sort of stuff, and I will answer the question, but it all comes back to what needs solved. So I asked this guy, Mike, I was like, okay, you buy so many books, there's so many things to listen to. And the type of person that we're probably talking to listens to podcasts at double speed, maybe not that, I can't listen to things at double speed, but I can listen to them a little sped up and still have retention. But I'm a slow reader. I've learned to a degree speed reading. Jim Quick, I've known Jim forever. He's tried to teach me speed reading. I don't really get the comprehension about it, but to be fair, I've immersed myself as deeply as other people have, but I'm a slow reader. And I think learning is painfully slow. Now, with the advent of AI, there are so much more accelerated ways to get data and knowledge, but that's different than wisdom and to really know and really understand something. So where do you start? So to go back to that, there's so much stuff out there. Well, where to start is know that there's a million things out there. There's so much new information, and there's a lot of people that will tantalize you, that will convince you that you need to stop time and pay attention to their thing, because this thing that they have or know that they're trying to sell you, or that they think you should pay attention to, that it's really critical and crucial to your life. And the reality is it may be, or it may not be. But the vast majority of stuff that people want to convince you is important to them, right? But is it important to you? Is it important to your goals? So the place to start is, what are you trying to solve? What is your goal and objective? Are you trying to make money? If your goal is to make money, then what are you selling? And who's the most likely person that can give you money for it? And how do you find one of those people? And everything you read, everything you listen to even though that's a guilt word, I'll use it anyway. You should have put your attention on the things that need to get solved. If you have, a giant cut on some part of your body and you're bleeding, but there's a really, kind of cool dopamine, attractive YouTube video or whatever, do your best to fucking ignore it and deal with the bleed, right? Yeah. Deal with what's at hand. So I think Eckhart Tolle, I don't know if you like Eckhart Tolle, this guy who wrote The Power Now. So I just spent 4 days in an event with him.
Okay.
And he has this one line that came out of one of his books, which is not one of his most popular books, but it's called Silence Speaks. And he said, here's a spiritual practice for you. Don't take your thoughts too seriously. And we are constantly having our thoughts tell us, this is important, this is important. Yeah. And social media and messaging and marketers are always trying to sneak in, not even sneak in, it's blatant.
Oh yeah.
Like in front of you, pay attention to take something seriously. And so part of it is being directional. And that's where setting a goal, and some people, half the people are goal setters. The other half the people are problem solvers. Some people that don't set goals, you read all this shit on goal setting, you're like, I'm terrible at setting goals. Well, maybe. I'm more of a problem solver. I set goals because we live in a world where there's all these people talking about goal setting. I have a bunch of tools that help people with setting goals, but I'm more of a problem solver. Like I walk into a room and I don't immediately see everything that's right. I walk into a room and I see everything that's wrong. So there's 2 worlds I have to operate from. One, if I want to be happy, I can't fixate on everything that is wrong, because if your entire perspective is everything's a mess, it's sort of a pessimistic sort of thing. But if you're the guy that can solve or fix the mess, that's a really valuable skill to have, to walk into a room and see what's wrong where other people they're oblivious to it. And I also know that all the money in the world, for the most part, is turning other people's bad news into good news. So I think bad news and problems are actually the raw ingredients for us to transform the situation for another human or for a company, an organization, community, whatever. So I'm looking for the problem that needs to be solved, but I'm also coming from a place of like, how do I have fun with this? Because if you're constantly like, everything sucks, there's all these problems. Yeah, the world is filled with suffering. And at the same time, suffering is the greatest teacher in the world. You want to know the very best teachers you're ever going to have? All the areas of your life that are not working, all the shit you're upset with, all the things that disgust us at times, and being able to engage with it in a way to where, for one, you're not a miserable person. Secondly, you're actually solving the problem. And third, if you solve the problem for yourself, you can probably solve it for other people, because your business, I can almost assure you, if we broke it down, you got interested in the things you're doing because you needed to first get those things figured out for yourself. And then same with me. I mean, I started teaching carpet and upholstery cleaners how to build and grow their business. Over 12,000 companies in that industry alone over many years became members of my organization. It's generated billions of dollars of revenue just from the stuff that I taught them when you spread it out worldwide. I mean, it was all over the world. I had clients everywhere, but I had to first solve it for me. I didn't go into it thinking, oh my God, I'm going to never teach anyone. I never thought I'd teach anything to anyone. I didn't even know I could write. I've written 5 books now. Well, 6 books now. And it was all an accident, but it was an accident that came from learning how to figure something out. So to go back to your original question, where do you start? Here's what I would say. Be very careful taking advice from people that have not done it. There are so many people that will share opinions. I cannot tell you how many, if I had $1 for every time someone wanted me to listen to their stepbrother, that's their marketing director. And I'm like, oh, so where'd you learn marketing? What do you mean? What are your favorite books? They don't fucking know anything about it, like nothing. But so my girlfriend, who you've met, she's a doctor also, brilliant doctor. People respect doctors to a degree. There's a lot of shitty ones and there's a lot of good ones. Just like
there's drama in that world right now for sure.
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, God, look at the last well, we can get started on the pandemic and everything, do no wrong, Hippocratic oath. I mean, a lot of doctors do not, it's not healthcare, it's sick care, but that's a whole nother, that's for another.
That's also another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So the thing is, like, I have put so much into my marketing education, more than almost any professor, anyone that has any college degree in any category. I have done if you want to use the 10,000 hour thing, probably 2 or 3 times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I have a track record that validates that infinitely. However, like, no one gives a shit unless they like really do a little bit of research. And so people can throw around labels and they can throw around opinions. So one of the best places to start is be very careful who you take advice from, and write this down somewhere or etch it in your brain that the most expensive information in the world is bad information, even if that information is free, and be willing to pay for good information. When everyone's trying to give away free information, that doesn't mean it's the best thing and the things that we can spend is our time, attention, money, effort, and energy. It's chapter 2 of my latest book, which is called What's in It for Them. And so I think, okay, where am I going to put my Tammy? Everything I have to make a decision on, me and you are friends, so this is different. I have like a list of 400 people right now, over 400, that since last, like 2 or 3 months ago, when I was interviewing some very famous people, all these people started reaching out. I mean, there was over 100 million views of video clips of, these individuals that I was interviewing all over on TV, everywhere. And so everyone's trying to like do and it's just like, it would be great if I had unlimited amounts of time, which I don't. So every day I have to like, okay, should this get my time? Should this get my attention? Should I spend money on this? Am I, my energy, like, how do I maintain my energy? And do I want to put effort into this? And then I put things through an L filter. Is it easy, lucrative, and fun? Is it aligned with what I want? Is there integrity involved? Would I do it even if I wasn't getting paid for it? So, like, there's a guy sitting in the room here. He's that goofball over there. His name's Parth. And so, I don't know, it's probably like 6-8 months ago. I was just ranting because I rant a lot. And we're sitting in my office, and Parth knows a lot about AI. And he created this system, which I'm yet to really adopt in a deeper way. But it took all of the criteria of how I have to make decisions about everything on my plate, because I get a dopamine hit when I say yes. So I'm curious, which is my greatest quality. I'm genuinely curious about people. I want to help. I find things super interesting. And it's a great way to bury yourself in continual novelty, right? So the thing that gives me an instant dopamine hit, which is the neurotransmitter of anticipation, is saying yes to things. But what gets me in trouble is saying yes to things. So what do you do when the one thing that gives you joy in the moment, saying yes, is also the thing that entraps you so that you can turn it into no? In your mind, you want to say yes, but you're like, but I can't. You have to create rules of engagement. You have to create a standard. Now, I do a lot of this in my head now. Yeah. And over the years, I have learned by getting pummeled and beat up and hurt. And truthfully, Dr. J, I spent many years as a functional addict where I was making money, but I was so just disconnected with the joy of it. I would kind of taste it, but it was like, trying to think if I should use this really crude analogy. I will, and I'm not saying this for purposes of just being crude. Like it's just funny. So it is crude. So someone said that I was.
You're going to wrestle my rating system on the podcast app.
Yeah, exactly. No, we can edit it out if we need to.
No,
but so I was talking to someone that was basically struggling with sex addiction and having a lot of sex with different people, and I said, well, are you wearing a condom? And by the way, are you wearing a condom? And first, like, yeah, but it's having sex with a condom is like eating a steak with a balloon on your tongue. And I was like, that is really so funny and kind of twisted and true, right? And so joy and pleasure, when you're seeking pleasure but you're not feeling it, it's kind of like watching something amazing through plexiglass. You're not really there. You're kind of witnessing it. And it's why people listen to music. It's why people watch movies. We live in a world of fantasy. And how shitty is life if your whole life's in fantasy and the mundane boringness of life is intolerable and you have to continually pursue things to the point where you can't even find pleasure anymore. And that's the challenge with overwhelm. That's the challenge of trying to do too many things. And what one of the biggest traps that entrepreneurs get into is they become pleasure deaf, where nothing feels that much fun anymore. And they keep trying to learn and they keep trying to learn and they keep trying to do and they keep trying to do. And then all of a sudden they quit listening to music for joy. They quit listening or reading books because they're actually learning. They're just trying to consume like a Pac-Man, and you're getting no nutrition. So you constantly are dealing with people that have gut issues, right?
Right.
So their body's not digesting well. Well, the brain is similar. You can only take so much. And so, where do you start? You find someone that you want to be a hero to. Who's the group of people that if they're like, you just want to be helpful, what is the skill that you currently, if you had it and you exploited it, would do a really good job? And that usually starts with, what do you already got? What are the skills that you have? Like I have Cal Newport. You ever read any Cal Newport's books?
Yeah.
Okay. So Cal, I interviewed Cal, I don't know how many years ago it was, right after he had written Deep Work. And so his first book was So Good They Can't Ignore You. Then his second book was Deep Work. And he's written a bunch of really good books. Yeah. And basically, So Good They Can't Ignore You was a line that originally came out of an interview with Charlie Rose interviewing the comedian Steve Martin years ago. And he had said to him, why are you, how do you become a good comedian? He's like, you got to be so good they can't ignore you. And so Cal wrote a whole book breaking down that whole concept where, don't follow your passion. There's all these people that are like, follow your passion. And I understand the semantics of it. I mean,
it can help you be so good if it's your passion.
Yeah. It's like you be passionate about stuff. And at the same time, what the focus of passion is, like, I want to find something I'm passionate about is about what value can the world bring to me, versus if you develop skills, it's like, what value can you bring to the world, which is way more valuable, because who gives a shit about my passions until those passions actually are useful to somebody, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of things that people want. So what are the skills that you need to develop? What are the capabilities that you need to develop that are going to get you to the opportunities you want to go? And if you're like, here's the opportunity, and it could be external, like I want to have a big house, I want to have a successful business, I want to have a best-selling book. It could be internal. I want to feel a certain way. I want to love my kids, my wife, my husband, my partner, whatever it is. I want to be an amazing farmer. I want to develop a deep spiritual practice. So what is it that you actually want? What are the skills and capabilities that are going to get you there? And then going back to like what I do, I'm a genius networker. So I have a group called Genius Network. I have a company called Genius Network, but a genius network is a group of people that have skills and capabilities. That's an ever evolving group of individuals that makes someone better. It expands your capabilities. So in order to have a genius network, which is a knowledge bank, because we have our own genius networks and Unstoppable 365, that's a genius network. If you want to get in better physical shape, you need a doctor, you need a nutritionist, you need a mindset coach. There's a whole group of people that are going to help you if you want to be in optimal physical shape, right? Mentally and physically. So in order to have a genius network, though, you have to be a genius networker and you have to do genius networking. So in order to you have to be a genius networker, which means your approach to others is what's in it for them. Your approach is, this person wants something, I want something. In order to get what I want, I have to make sure my give is equal to or greater than my want. So when I interact with people, I want to make sure that if there's something that I would like from them, that I do not convince myself that I'm entitled to that unless I create value first. So I learned a lot of this from my good friend, Dan Sullivan. The world doesn't owe me anything. I'm not entitled to anything. And anything that I get in my life is going to come as a result of me producing more than I consume. It's going to be me doing something that gets me that it's like the whole sitting in front of a fireplace and wanting heat, but you have to put the logs in the fire. You have to generate it. So good things in life, the problem when you get something free of charge where you don't earn it, you become entitled, or you create this expectation that, and this country in this world right now is going through some insane turbulence because there's a lot of people that just had a lot that was available to them, that generations of people worked so hard for freedom, so hard, so many lives were lost, so much effort was expended in order for some of these generations to have, including me, wonderful, amazing things that people before me literally sacrificed so much, worked so hard for me to have. And when those things disappear, people are like, they're taking this away. Well, what have you contributed to it? You know, and no, it sucks. I don't want the world to be in a turbulent state. I want, you know, I don't want to have, I look at, you know, I wake up every day and I remind myself there's 3 billion people on the planet who their dreams would come true if they could trade places with people like us. You know, not in a war-torn country. We have food to eat. We have, you know, food and shelter and relationships. And we're, you know, I mean, like I've quite a few friends right as we're doing this podcast that have lost their homes in LA. You know, what a perspective shift. You know, last week I was in a maximum security penitentiary with 15 of my friends speaking to people that are incarcerated. Some are there for many, many years and are going to, you know, some are going to be there the rest of their lives. They don't have phones. They never leave. They don't get to decide what food they're going to eat. They don't have enjoyable lives. And you still find people there that are incredibly spiritually connected, people that have found grace, and some people that are, you know, didn't commit violent crimes, but they were addicts and they got themselves in trouble. And it's sad, but it's also a great perspective. And so one of the ways to, if you're a person, where to start with being a giver, not being a taker. Start with eliminating everyone in your life as much as you can. If it's harder, if they're family members, you know, eliminate the people that are hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, and spend your time, attention, money, effort, and energy on people that are easy, lucrative, and fun. In order to have an elf business or an elf life, it's often hard to set it up in the beginning because you don't just fall into it. And if you do, don't take it for granted, because that's the problem with early success without a tremendous amount of effort. If you win the lottery right off the bat, and I'm saying that metaphorically, usually you're fucked. I mean, you really are, because it instills this entitlement thing. So, I mean, we've seen countless people that have had, you know, born into a very wealthy family, didn't have to work really hard. Many of them become addicts. I mean, I work a lot, you know, and so don't handicap your kids by making their life too easy. Don't handicap yourself by making your life too easy. Things that are received free of charge are seldom valued. When you earn something, like earning muscle, earning money, earning real accomplishment, not bullshit status. I mean, I know some people who are fucking complete criminals in the personal development industry that have massive multi-million followings. They are scumbags, absolute scumbag criminals, and they have gotten away with it, and they pay off lawsuits. And if you look them up, you know, look at how many lawsuits they've been, and they get away with it, you know, for a period of time, but they never get away with it karmically, because when you go to bed and you're taking advantage of other people, I believe there will be a price that you ultimately pay. It may not be in this lifetime, but you go to bed knowing that the world thinks you're a winner, but you won not by really winning, you won by cheating. Like one of the books I'm working on right now, it's almost done, is Winners Find Ways.
I love that idea.
What's that?
I love that idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can win by cheating, but that ain't what I would consider winning. Winning is who you become, not what you accomplish. It's not what you accomplish. It's who you're becoming on the way to accomplishment. And the problem is all of these external things are very seductive, especially when you're young and you haven't been really taken advantage of or betrayed. It's when real betrayal happens to someone, or when real pain happens, where often they reflect and be like, now I know what it feels like. And you start understanding your parents when your parents did shitty things, and you realize if you were at the same level of consciousness and pain in atmospheric conditions as your parents were, when they made those decisions that you resent them for, you would have done the same exact things. It's one of the reasons we go and speak to prisoners is if I had the same exact atmospheric conditions as any of those people, I would have behaved the same way they do. And part of it is a reminder, be careful of my atmospheric conditions. My friend, Dr. Don Wood, is the one who came up with that, atmospheric conditions things. But yeah, so where to start? Where are you? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? That's where to start. Write down where you're at right now. Here's where I'm at physically, mentally. Here's my problems. Here's my challenges. Here's my opportunities. Write it down. I have a tool in Genius Network called Where Are You? Learned it in 1991 from my dear friend to this day, Ken Glickman. And you write down, where are you? Okay, so because all progress starts by telling the truth. So where are you right now? Where do you want to go? Personally, professionally? As long as you can identify that, then you look like, well, how am I going to get there? Well, if I did this, I would get, well, I don't quite know, but if I talk to this person, they could help me. That's when you start building your Genius Network. So I've started countless meetings with those 3 questions. That's where to start. And all the other stuff that I talked about just helps you think about stuff, and hopefully that's useful.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. J here. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and like the information that we're providing, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and like the podcast, because it helps us to be able to expand our reach to find other entrepreneurs. Your support helps us to reach other entrepreneurs and help us to help them truly unlock their superhuman potential and make the world a better place. Well, hopefully everyone listening is taking notes, because this is like a true, like, epic masterclass on how to become an entrepreneur, covering all the bases top to bottom. So, but yeah, and so I want to talk more on kind of what you're talking about there at the end, because it's been probably about a year ago today. One random morning, I get a text with a little video from this phone number I don't recognize, and open up the video, and Joe Polish is sending me a video text message. I'm like, who is this? And he's there with one of my clients, with Martha, and so I think back to kind of going on, who you become in this process.
Yeah.
If I think back to a year ago to kind of where I am now, and how I can, even start this Superhuman Entrepreneur podcast, and the progress that's happened. Yes, we've hit some amazing goals, helped us, countless people, their health has changed, transformed. We've hit revenue goals, exceeded revenue goals. All those are really great.
Yeah.
But I was even talking to my friend, I'm a doctor mastermind, and they're like, what was your biggest accomplishment in 2024? And everyone's, talking about, this revenue, we did it. And I'm like, no, it's like who I am now compared to where I was before. And I'm so excited for where, January of 2026, who am I going to be? I'm hanging out with Joe and all the team and my amazing Genius Network that I've been building to continue to evolve. But so on that topic, before that, I tried to do it myself. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck in isolation. They think they know all the answers.
Right.
So that's kind of the last thing I want to talk about, because I know I'm an introvert. I know you are introverted. That's a skill to not be an introvert. So how, if someone doesn't have a Genius Network and they're stuck with their same friends, the same area, the same family, the same story, how can they start to get out of that and start to build their Genius Network to help them to elevate and become the person that's going to achieve those goals?
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the things. I think source code is usually the best place to start. Like the original books on a topic that started a whole industry or started a whole movement are usually the best ones to read, because a lot of times you're just hearing regurgitated versions of something else. So I heard something early on in my 20s, which is be nice to the people you meet on the way up. They're the same people you're going to meet on the way down. So that really made me think a lot about your actions matter. Don't take advantage of people, because even if you get away with it early on, it's going to catch up with you later. You want to come from a place of just being a cool person. So I'm going to come back to opportunities versus being an opportunist, and then do something every day that scares you. And here's the difficult thing. Being an entrepreneur, especially in the very beginning, changing your environment, walking away from people, being isolated requires courage. It's easy to do stuff when we have confidence. It's not easy to do. Courage sucks, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
And it doesn't suck to be courageous. However, if you think of all the times you had to be courageous, you might have been driven by a certain meaning behind it, or power, or a certain sort of excitement. But usually courage doesn't feel good. Confidence feels good. And nothing feels good in the middle. And when you're in the middle of a hard workout, it oftentimes sucks. But everything sucks in the middle, right? Unless you're somehow, and some are, not most, but some people are present to the journey. And they're just like, yeah, this is just all part of the game. And so over the years, I say this to young people all the time. If I would have known being successful was this much work, I would have stuck with being a loser. Because if you know all the shit that you're going to have to do that you don't know. So it requires courage to be an entrepreneur. It requires courage to walk away from bad relationships. It requires courage to pack up your bags, get out of a situation that you know is never going to be fulfilling to you. It takes a tremendous amount of courage. And sometimes you burn bridges, right? It doesn't mean you have to hurt people, and it doesn't mean you have to hurt yourself. Oftentimes that does happen accidentally, right? However, if you're operating out of integrity and you're just going for it, then great. And so doing something every day that scares you, I want to put the right context around this. That doesn't mean running out in front of traffic and being an idiot.
Let's go jump off cliffs. No, that's not it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can, it takes a lifetime to build a great reputation and a moment of stupidity to destroy it. So be careful who you associate with. Look for red flags and avoid them, or stop and pause long enough to be like, okay, I need to have this conversation. I need to really think this through. There's no such thing as a good deal with a bad partner, a bad person. So be very careful who you associate with. Cut all ties with dishonest, negative, and lazy people completely. Doesn't matter if there's money involved in it. There's money everywhere. Walk away from it if it's not the right thing. If it requires you to do something that goes against good character, good value system, have a value system. A lot of people don't. My late friend Dave Kekich says lasting happiness does not come from consuming values, but by producing values, and producing more than you consume is the only justification for existence. And so people will often read a book from a famous person or follow a well-known influencer, and the person is oftentimes coming from, I'm trying to think who it was that came up with the model of power, achievement, and affiliation. So there's a lot of speakers. I won't name their names. You'll know who I'm talking about when I say it. That they lord their power over an audience, and they have a lot of wannabes that are jumping up and down and, following them. And it's like, crowd control, and it could be highly manipulative. It could be fun, for some people. Depends on, I'm not saying just because you have an audience jumping up and down and clapping, you're doing anything bad. It's how you're doing it. It's what you're doing. It's the motivation behind it. And so a lot of powerful people are the ones that are famous. They're strong, they're confident. They can say shit that is so utterly wrong, but they say it with such a force and authority that people actually follow them. There are tyrannical world leaders, horribly unethical televangelists, people that are in the seminar space that have millions of people that follow them, that are some of the just most egregious humans. And people think they're fucking amazing because they're so good at performing, right? Yeah. So power people attract affiliation people, whereas I don't want to come at, I like achievers. So I'm an affiliation person that also likes achievers. So I don't ever try to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be what's the saying? I don't want to be a sage from the stage. I want to be a guide from the side. So I want to bring in people that are equal and better than me in areas and I know a lot of people, so who you follow, who you read, who you study, who you admire has everything to do with your identity and with your ambition. So create your own value system by taking in everything that you read, everything that you watch, everything you listen to, and develop your own value system. Don't just cookie cutter it. I mean, I have people that will come up to me and say, I want to be just like you. I'm like, believe me, there's many areas of my life you do not want to be just like me. And why would you? Right? Be yourself. I mean, certainly if there's attributes and qualities that you see in someone that you think is awesome, great, but that doesn't necessarily mean they even follow their message. Someone made a movie about me after I made a movie about Dan Sullivan, and went to my assistant, Eunice, and said, I want to make a movie about Joe. And Eunice came up to me. This is the 30th year that Eunice has worked for me. She's been my right-hand person. She's amazing. And she's like, and I go, who? And she's like, well, I promised them I would not say. They want to be anonymous. I'm like, was it this way? She's like, you're never going to guess. And I'm like, is it? She goes, no, I can't tell you. And so I started rattling off names. And to her credit, she never told me. Mm-hmm. And I went the whole year not knowing who the hell made a movie about me till I finally saw this movie in front of an audience of people at one of my Genius Network meetings. And they actually did a pretty good job. It tells, I didn't know who was going to be in it. I was being interviewed, but I didn't know who was behind it. Yeah. And so when often I share that movie with people, I'll be like, you got to understand, this is just a slice of my life edited in a certain way, and it makes me look good. So it's like everything's a bit of propaganda. And I didn't want it to be a fluff piece. And I don't think I think they presented it pretty well. But the reason I bring that up is any person can be positioned in a way to look good. Mm-hmm. Get to know who they are. So, don't just immediately fall in love with someone, because that ain't love, that's lust. You can build rapport very quickly with people. Trust takes more time. So when you're starting out, or when you're developing a Genius Network, be careful who you invite into your world, and be careful what you invite into their worlds, and really check yourself before you wreck yourself every freaking day. More importantly, the more well-known you become, because the problem with success is you start believing your own PR. You start resting on your laurels. You've seen it. Someone gets into a great physical place, and all of a sudden they're there. They have arrived, and they start doing stupid shit. Yep. And it all fucking unravels very quickly.
And then 6 months later, they're back worse than they were before.
Exactly. And you're there to fix and clean up the messes. So, oftentimes there's a lot of money to be made cleaning up people's messes. Like as a matter of fact, that's where a lot is. But the thing is, when things start getting messy, that's the reason you want to have a Genius Network. And you do it by being a giver, not being a taker. So I'll go back and say what I said before. Make sure that your give is equal to or greater than you want. Associate with people that are, the same person, like in business as they are outside of business, because there's situational behavior. Me and you exhibit situational behavior on this text thread that we're on, because there's people there that we can cuss and share inappropriate memes with. Mm-hmm. But, you're not going to go to your friend's grandma and show like some twisted meme, right. Unless she's like gonna like that and find it funny. And I actually like people that like twisted humor, because I think that's a good gauge. If someone's so uptight that they can't look, they can't cuss, they can't do stuff. And now, not saying that everyone should cuss, because let's take Joel Weldon. Joel Weldon is, I don't think that guy's ever had a swear word come out of his mouth. So he's 82 years old. He's one of the original founders of the National Speakers Association. He's been in Genius Network for like a decade. He's an amazing human being. He's never had a drop of alcohol, but he can sit and listen to me talk about, hookers, cocaine, drinking, cussing. But he knows the essence of who I am as a person, and we get along great. We love each other. He's a great guy. I don't lord my beliefs on him, And in the beginning, though, he's like, Joe, you really shouldn't use profanity. And he's a speaker coach. He's helped me tremendously. He's not completely eradicated all that stuff from me. But the point is, you are who you are, and if you don't like parts of you that who you are, then change them. You can work on it. It may not happen overnight, but we're all humans. We're all a work in progress. And so all the people you're going to interact with, they all want something. And if you can etch into your brain what's in it for them, not what's in it for me, your approach is different. Your energy is different. So I want something like, we have some lunch waiting here, at least for me, that I want to eat lunch, right? Yeah. But again, we can't eat lunch right at this moment. So I have to sustain a certain level of like, I'm hungry. I want to eat some food, but we're doing a podcast right now, right? Well, that's a minor thing. Most everything, and I learned this from Dan Sullivan probably in 1997. There's a ton of shit to do with building and growing a business. Since we're talking to entrepreneurs, ton of stuff. So easy to get distracted. But why do people want to do it? Because they want to be their own boss. Well, what does that mean? I don't have anyone tell me what to do. I'm going to have freedom. The sky's the limit. Well, most entrepreneurs have less time freedom than people that work 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, it's true, but they have different types of freedom. They have relationship freedom. Sometimes they have financial freedom, although I know a lot of entrepreneurs whose team members make more money than they do because all of the money is going to make payroll.
Yeah.
And
sometimes that's part of the process.
Exactly. And so you got to be willing to do that. So the best thing about being your own boss is you're your own boss. The worst thing about being your own boss is you're your own boss. And sometimes you're a shitty boss. And so you have to develop yourself. And that comes from who you're hanging out with, the books you read, the decisions that you make. Now, I say books because I'm like an old dude. I'll be 57 in a couple weeks at the time we're doing this. And I still have the same immature thoughts I did when I was 18, a lot of them. Alice Cooper, the singer, he's 20 years older than me. We have the exact same birthday, but he's 20 years older than me. And when I was young, I was a drug addict, and I used to listen to this song that he wrote called I'm 18. And the lyrics were, I'm 18, I get confused every day. I'm 18, I just don't know what to say. I'm 18, I want to get away. And I feel like that as an adult all the time. I don't know what to say. I'm confused. I get nervous talking to people. People think I'm like this. Oh, you just like I like people. It doesn't mean I'm, completely confident. It doesn't mean I'm not insecure or that I don't question my self-worth. I do it all the time. But you're either frozen stiff or you're moving scared. And that's just humans. Most people are moving scared that are doing something. And the ones that forget that there's other humans that they're dealing with, that's when they become reckless. That's when they start being self-centered, greedy. And when I say greedy, I mean in a really bad way. Selfishness can either be the book Ayn Rand wrote about selfishness is actually a great book for context. There's a virtue, the virtue of selfishness. However, that doesn't mean you withhold value from other people just because you get off on it. And there are some people, I hate it when there's a young entrepreneur sitting around a bunch of smart people, including some that are very wealthy, asking a question. The person knows the answer. It will take them no time to just say, oh, do this, do this, do this. And they're like, they're posturing. And it's like, fucking help the person out. Like, really? Are you that much of an asshole? So the way I gauge who becomes my real close inner circle friends versus who are just colleagues, I look at how are people that are more powerful treat people that are less powerful than them. Do they open the door? Do they say, thank you? Are they nice to servers that are working? So look at, here's what I was going to say. I didn't finish the situational behavior versus situational ethics. Like you've drank beer.
Actually, no.
No, you never drink beer. You've been to church.
Yes.
Okay. So
those usually go together. Not drinking beer and going to church, probably.
Exactly. I taught that to Bill Phillips years ago, and he put it in one of his books, like in Body for Life, I think it was. So basically, yeah, I should know. You're an angel, Dr. Jay. Like, had I been more, if you would have brought me back to the fact, I should have known that because I did know that. I just didn't remember it in this moment. So you are. So as a comparison, I'm a very bad person and you're a very good. No,
not at all.
So most people have drank beer, except you and the good ones.
And Joel Weldon, apparently.
What's that?
And Joel Weldon, apparently.
Yeah, no, Joel's not had sugar in over 40 years. Like, it's unbelievable. Right. The guy's never drank coffee. But he has a great story on that too, when it totally changed his life. And that's why he's in such great physical shape at 82 years old, not just physically, but mentally. So most people will have situational behavior. You're going to say certain things in certain environments, but that's okay because we all have to have situational behavior.
Yeah.
Situational ethics, though, when someone acts a certain way, I want to see people that are the same way ethically all the time. And if they start altering that, and look, no one's perfect. I always say this to have grace for people is when you are an active addict, which I have been, there's no way to be an addict if you do not lie, cheat, or steal. And that may not even be lying, cheating, and stealing from other people. That could be from yourself. You're lying to yourself. You're cheating yourself. You're stealing all kinds of things from yourself. And oftentimes that manifests externally. And it could even lead into criminal behavior. And hurt people hurt others. When I was speaking in the prison, I actually opened up saying, how many of you have been hurt by people? A bunch of prisoners. I go, how many of you hurt other people? A bunch of people raised their hand. I go, well, hurt people hurt others. However, there are hurt people that don't hurt others. There are people that take that hurt and they end up changing that. So a couple of things I'll say to kind of tie in what we've talked about. Where do you start? Wherever there's anxiety, there's opportunity. So whatever industry you're in, whoever you want to be a hero to, there's all kinds of stuff that you may just want to do because you think it's neat, but if no one wants it, good luck with that. You got to find something people want, that they're willing to look for problems that someone is actively wishing, hoping, seeking to solve, and no one has yet shown up with a solution in the way that would work for them. And if there's a big enough niche for that, there's a huge opportunity, plenty of money to be made. So identifying those niches, and don't look at problems as something to run away from. Look at problems as something to solve. Some people are problem focused, but they never solve a solution. Some people are solution focused. In order to be solution focused, you have to identify where there's a problem. Then there's communication. Become a communications master. Find people that are really good at talking. If you're scared and nervous, I will take the guy or the gal who's willing to get out in the snow, get out in the fear, in the scare, and ask someone out on a date, ask for an opportunity, try to work for someone that's sitting around listening to podcasts on how to reach your goals and opportunities. Learning something is not the same thing as doing something. Stephen Covey said to know but not to do is not to know. To understand and not to do is not to understand. So if you think you know something, oh, I know that. Are you doing that? No, then you don't know that. Oh, I know how to get in better physical shape, but you're not in physical. So you don't know how to do that. Well, no, I know the mechanics. Well, yeah, but how many unhealthy doctors are dispensing health advice? And it doesn't mean that what they're dispensing is not good advice. I know a shit ton of people that give good advice that don't live it. If you ever invalidate the message because of the messenger, you'll never read another book, listen to another seminar, listen to another podcast. No one's perfect, myself included. There's a ton of stuff. I just really strive to be congruent with what it is that I say. And if I'm going to go and say and suggest stuff, I better be doing that shit in my own life and watch people. Are they congruent with what they say? What are they just spewing stuff? And so don't be a performer, be a participant. Don't be a teacher, be a student. Always start with the beginner's mind. Never operate from the standpoint that you think you have it all figured out, because if you do, there will be that time when you slip up and it may hurt you and it may hurt other people. So take risk and be intelligent about how you're taking risks. And, there's some risks that you can take every day that aren't going to kill you. They're not going to hurt anyone else. There's going to be you challenging yourself. And to go back to, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So I hope that anyone that's listening to this, what my hope is that they first realize that we're all more powerful than we ever give ourselves credit for, in good ways and bad ways, meaning we can really do amazing stuff in the world and we can really do a lot of harm in the world too. Secondly, there's a lot of people out there that need help. And if you're isolated and you're lonely, this world is filled with loneliness. One of the most underutilized forms of resources is human capital. There's plenty of food. There's plenty of water. There's plenty of love. There's plenty of energy. We don't have a resource problem in the world. We have a distribution problem. I don't know if this is even accurately true, but I remember listening to a talk last year where this woman who had done all these studies on food, like in America, by the time a meal gets plated in a restaurant, in your house, I think it's 40% of the food is wasted before it gets on the plate because of travel, getting from the farm to the manufacturing to the table, wherever, And of course, me and you are going to be, don't eat unhealthy vegetable oils and seed oils.
Get your protein in, all this stuff.
Yeah, don't eat processed foods. 70% of the American diet right now is processed foods. Of that 70%, 30% of the caloric intake of the average American. Learned this from my friend, Dr. Kate Shanahan, who wrote an amazing book called Dark Calories that everyone should read. For sure. That is the go-to book for nutrition. Exactly. She's amazing. And, so I've learned about oils from her. 30% of the caloric intake of the average American is oils. And of that 30%, which is way too much oil for anyone, even if it's a healthy oil, of that 30% of oils, 80% of that is vegetable oils or processed oils or seed oils. So, eat healthy oils. So the point is, it's like I can't even remember what the hell we're talking about now. It's like tying into food analogy.
We got into health. I don't know.
What I should ask let's see, what was there was,
it was going really good, whatever.
Yeah, it was good. And you should leave this in just because
Probably.
so people can see that
This is what happens when Joe doesn't get his lunch on time.
Yeah. And I'm a whiny little bitch. I ramble endlessly. And no, so the thing is like all of, do you know Michael Burnoff?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Michael's character, it's really funny because the guy that writes the blog for Genius Recovery, I've one of the most amazing addiction therapists, wonderful human named Ken Wells. He's in his 70s. He writes, not AI, but he writes a blog. We utilize AI to then turn the blog into audio if someone would rather listen to it than read it. But he writes it himself twice a week at geniusrecovery.org. And he wrote a book called Dare to Be Average. And I'm like, that is not a good marketing title because people do not aspire to be average. He's like, yeah, but I'm not going to change it because the real happiness and connection comes with the average. Life is boring. Life is often uneventful. And if you're always constantly pursuing stimulation, it's not, that's what will, oftentimes mess you up. Yep. And then Michael Burnoff wrote a book called Average Sucks.
Yep.
And so one of my goals is I want to bring both of them together and interview them and say, okay, both of you, because they're both great, right? And I like the way he explains and frame things. But, the point is, there's a lot of advice that's out there. There's a lot. So Michael has this thing where he's like, it's either entertainment, addiction, or nutrition. So when you're eating, are you eating nutrition? Are you eating entertainment? Like, it's not the healthiest, but it's not horrible. Or is it addiction? That's where like ding dongs and candy bars and like, deep fried chicken and all, none of that's not even entertainment. That's just that's the part of our craving state that just wants to consume unhealthy stuff. So fuel your body with good things, fuel your mind with good things, put a moat around yourself as best you can. And simultaneously, because this is where we have to live in contradiction, I believe, where like Eckhart Tolle, I brought him up. I don't know a lot of people that have ever said, I read The Power of Now and I went out and I knocked out a multi-million-dollar sales letter. Well, there's and at the same time, all of this stuff, like Gary Halbert used to say, you'll accomplish more through movement than you ever will through meditation. He's like, okay, keep moving. And I believe that for a long time, but now I've learned sometimes if you're going down a wrong path, you're going to accomplish a hell of a lot more with meditation than you will movement, especially when the movement is neurotic, when the movement is taking you into a dark place. So all this stuff I'm saying, it's the food that you put in your body and the calories. Calories are, there's only so much capacity and resources. That's what it was. Now, it takes me enough to stream it down, come back to resources. So human connection, that is, I grew up very shy, very introverted, very scared. And I forced myself to go talk to people because I realize I'm not going to get any opportunities in my life if I don't go and talk to other people. And I'm scared to talk to other people. I mean, I literally would get high because it was so nerve-wracking. And so, I mean, I would feel sick to my stomach if I had to try to approach somebody. And now it's like, they're not going to hurt me. And most people, I'll even say this, like, how many of you here at this seminar? Because I used to go to tons of seminars by myself. I didn't have anyone to go with, right? And now, I get invited and people want to pay me a lot of money to speak at events and stuff like that, which I turn down most of it. And I never forget though, that all these people that are there, they're trying to learn something, right? They're trying to get results in their life. And I'll be like, well, how many of you don't want anyone to, how many of you are here by yourself? Bunch of hands. How many of you don't want anyone to introduce themselves to you? No one ever raises their hand. I'll say, how many of you would like to meet someone new? How many of you like someone? And they'll raise their hands. I'm like, there you go. Why people are so worried that they're the only ones that feel scared and nervous or wanting someone to approach. And Everyone is, but we just happen to have created this culture where people are more connected digitally, but they're more disconnected as humans. And so if you want to really stand out, you don't have to be a complete rock star. You don't even have to be superhuman. You just have to be a little bit better than most people. And if you are, you'll be superhuman. And to be entrepreneurial, just focus on how do we make this situation better. And if you can't, don't try to sell them something. Most people wake up every day hoping they can avoid a salesperson. They don't want someone trying to sell them something. And if you have something that you're going to sell someone, make sure it's going to benefit them. And be courageous if you have to. Right. And be willing to mop up shit. Be willing to go through all of the crap in order to do it, because the world is waiting for caring, awesome people to show up and do amazing things. And also have some fun. Tell dirty jokes. Do that sort of stuff too, because I think that helps. That's my wrap.
Okay. All right. This has been wonderful for me. I've learned a lot. I know anyone who's listened to this is actually going to learn a ton and start applying and get this happening in your life and your business. You have a little spin-off there talking about food and being healthy, because we have Unstoppable 365 that we're working on together.
And everyone needs to sign up for that if they resonate with this.
Right. Yeah. Because we're here to try to help you to level up whether the food you're eating, the quality of your energy, and help you to show up as a better person, have more confidence. All that goes back to how you're showing up physically. So, Joe, we could talk another 5 hours, but let's make sure you get your lunch. And after you go through those 400 people, let's do this again sometime in the future.
Oh, no, absolutely. And people that are following, here's the thing too. So if you really like Dr. J and you're learning stuff, then you are better off mastering one book than reading 10 books and not really doing anything from them. If you really like someone's podcast, stick with that. Go deep with the person, because I actually think we live in a world of shallow. And if people start going deep, and if you want to deepen your health and nutrition, then join Unstoppable 365 and bring someone along with you. Because when you bring other people along with you, there's the camaraderie, there's the community, and that's what makes everything better. And be an edifier of good stuff. Like one of the things I do, I constantly promote things that don't make me money, that I like, even people I don't even know. And when I see good stuff, I tell other people about it. And that's one of the ways that I think I connect people, is I just try to connect people with books, wisdom, ideas, and other individuals that I think are awesome. So it's a pleasure doing the podcast with you here, and I look forward to the next time. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And that's how you become a superhuman entrepreneur.
Entrepreneurship is about solving problems for a profit while maintaining integrity. You need to know, where are you now? And where do you want to be? And then what are those steps in between? Sometimes you don't know them, but you need to be able to be honest about where your current state is. You need to be honest about your goals. You need to do something every day that scares you. If you don't know what that is, you need to start thinking bigger. The most expensive information in the world is bad information, even if it's free. Entrepreneurs so often choose productivity over joy and health and natural balance. You enjoying the podcast? Help us reach more entrepreneurs like you by leaving a review. As a thank you, everyone who leaves a 5-star review will be entered into a drawing for some exciting prizes. We are here to help you more than just listen. Head over to superhumanentrepreneur.com, click on community, and join a powerful network of entrepreneurs that are striving to be their best. Each episode includes action steps, resources, and accountability to help you to implement these ideas and start seeing results.